right, everyone, welcome to the second Brodown episode from Brothers and Boss Battles, a video game showdown podcast. This episode will be having our Brodown regarding our adventure puzzler category. Just as a quick recap, the three games in this category that we discussed in the three prior episodes were Stray by Annapurna Studios, Grim Fandango, originally by LucasArts and then remade by Double Fine Productions, and then finally The Cave, also by Double Fine Productions. We had lively discussions the last 3 weeks. We encourage you to go back to those episodes, take a listen to them, just to have some sort of idea of what we're talking about. Just like the first Brodown, I'll give a quick rundown. What we're going to do is take a series of categories and discuss each game within those categories, things like music, graphics, gameplay, all the essentials to any good video game. And then at the end, we'll argue about which one should come out on top, and what's the runner-up and in last place out of these three in this particular category. All right, so as usual, I'm Anthony Frizaglia, and my brothers Pete and Tom are here. We are the brothers in Brothers and Boss Battles, and we're hoping for a good Brodown episode today. First thing I think we want to talk about on these three games is their story, their lore, their characters.
Ready, fight.
As you probably guessed from the prior three episodes, I love all three of these games in this category, so it's going to be a bit hard for me, I think, to put one down at the bottom. But that's the rule of the game, and so that's how we're going to play. As far as the story is concerned, I'll go first. I guess I'll just keep droning on, and then my brothers will jump in at some point. As far as the story and the lore is concerned, to me, I'll start with the last place on this for me, and I think The Cave sort of is at the bottom of these three games in the story department. A fun puzzler game, of course, but the story's kind of bland in the sense that you have these characters and they're just trying. They're not the best people, and you kind of go through this cave and they kind of discover themselves, and then whether they stay good or whether they stay bad or maybe turn the page and become good is sort of an interesting part of the story. But it's kind of, as we discussed in the prior episodes, it's just really shown through various panes of like a comic strip almost that you find throughout. So the story is a little bit lacking here, or at least the way they developed it. Between Stray and Grim Fandango, it's really tough for me because I love the story and the lore of both of those. Grim Fandango, as you may remember, you're a seemingly hapless salesman of passageways to the in your afterlife to get to your final destination, and you wind up uncovering a conspiracy within the Department of Death that you work for. It's a story of love and a story of triumphing over wrong, and friendship and all of that. So it's really great, and it's set within the Mexican folklore type of setting. So that's really good. And then you have Stray, where you're a cat and you play as him and his little robot companion, and it's just the setting and the story for that is so cool, with the sort of like a post-apocalyptic world where you're just kind of traversing, and you like in Grim Fandango, you sort of uncover all these interesting sort of truths that were sort of unknown by the people there. So I don't know. I'd like to give my brothers a little platform on this, and then I'll see if I can choose one over the other between Stray and Grim Fandango as far as this category is concerned.
Yeah, this topic is interesting for me in this category because I view the three games as kind of, they have different sort of intentions, right? The Cave is more like short stories.
Mm-hmm.
And when back when I used to read books, I like short stories. But then I see Grim Fandango as more like a classic movie or a classic novel, and so so The Cave is one of my favorite books. It's Winesburg, Ohio, and it's like a bunch of short stories about the different people in the town, and it's one of my favorite books. And then I see Grim Fandango as like The Count of Monte Cristo, also one of my favorite books. And then Stray, even though maybe this analogy doesn't work as well because it's a singular game, but I see that just in terms of like the lore and the story, the history. It could be like a Star Wars or like a Game of Thrones, a Harry Potter. So they're all kind of trying to do different things, in my opinion,
Yeah.
with the story.
So, in other words, Stray is some of the greatest stories ever told. Okay.
No, no. Well,
That differs greatly from what you said in the Stray episode, but okay.
no, I that's not true. I liked the story and the lore.
Mm,
I had a little difficulty with fully comprehending it until I went online after I
mm,
played it to really read through it. So that was a little bit of an issue with me. Um, but to me, the Grim Fandango story is excellent and it's more clear as you're playing through the game. So I give it points for that over Stray. And the cave to me, again, it's not trying to be this epic story, but
yeah.
for what it was trying to do, I think it really missed the mark. Again, through those wall paintings, the cave paintings, whatever they call
Right.
them.
Yeah, I called them comic book paintings, but they're really wall paintings.
Yeah, yeah. Even just through the simplicity of that, and there's other games I've played that kind of do that with different characters and just tell kind of stories through just little cutscenes, a couple of cutscenes or a couple of whatever. And so, even though it's not trying to be epic, it really could have been well done and made you kind of really understand the characters, and the cave really missed the mark on it. So, it's a little bit of a hard comparison because they're all trying to do different things, I think. But for me, I'd probably rank Grim Fandango number one, then Stray, and The Cave definitely missed the mark.
Tom, why don't you give us your thoughts on this
Yeah,
category?
yeah. I mean, the cave. I agree with what's been said already. I mean, I feel like they weren't really emphasizing the story at all. I mean, yeah, it could have been done better. To Pete's point, for with what little emphasis they were putting on it, but they could have done that better. Instead of just giving these like single shots of like things you already kind of knew from playing the levels. So it was just kind of like you weren't even learning anything new about the characters as you progress through the game. Uh, so yeah, I mean, I would put that at the bottom as well. And it's tough between the other two, as you guys have already uh, conveyed. Because yeah, I mean, Grim Fandango, it was a good story, and that was like one of the things that actually kept me going through that game. Uh, and we'll obviously touch on that as we get to the other categories here. But yeah, I mean, it was a cool story. It was something unique that you don't really see often. That was cool. I think I'm gonna give, and I sung the praises of Stray throughout the entire episode where we discussed it. But yeah, I mean, I just feel like the story there and the world creation that they accomplished there, I just think it was really impressive given what they were working with the small team and even just such a short game, how they were able to like cram so much lore into that
Yeah, it
into
really
that
was like
that's
mysterious, which was cool.
yeah, and I feel like it was just a little deeper. Where like I mean, Grim Fandango was good, but it was just kind of like you got through it and that was it. Like
Mm.
there was no like I
Yeah,
don't know,
which
like to me, Stray was like you know when we used to watch Lost, the
Yeah,
classic TV show,
well, some
yeah,
people
back in
might argue
like two.
that's a negative. But
Well,
yeah. No, but
well, hold on. Let
seasons
me
one and
finish.
two of Lost,
Yeah,
okay.
where I
but
was
just
like,
like like I would
yeah,
want to when an episode aired the next morning, I would go on and like try to
message
look up like
boards.
well, not necessarily that, but like
Yeah,
see
for,
like well like what little things did I miss that was like Easter eggs or like
yeah.
foreshadowing or something like that.
For your for
And I
you
feel like Stray,
kids, message boards used to be places where people on the internet got together and talked about things,
yeah,
but not via video. Yeah, no, I hear that. I mean, it is
yeah,
true. Grim Fandango kind of resolved. So there was
yeah,
like after it was done, there was really nothing else to kind of go with. And meanwhile, Stray had like Easter eggs and it had an ending, but it also left it somewhat open-ended, like we discussed in the episode, like possible sequels, and it really did lend itself to sequels where the other two games don't. At least
Yeah,
yeah,
at least story-wise.
that's true. I don't think that's necessarily a good, good or bad thing.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
again, I see Grim Fandango as like just like an amazing classic movie that there's no
yeah,
sequels. It just stands on its
yeah.
own.
Yeah.
You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
and it
I
took
mean,
from Casablancas and those
Yeah,
kind of things.
exactly.
So
yeah, there are points to be made for both sides, I think. I guess it's just a matter of personal preference and what you
yeah.
like more. Do you want to just be told everything and not have to think for yourself, or do you want to like have
Oh,
some kind of
oh.
imagination?
Yeah. So
All right. So
we didn't
Tom's
touch too
giving it to
much.
Stray.
Yeah.
We didn't touch too much on in this discussion on the characters itself
Yeah.
or themselves.
Oh, so that's
Um,
true. So why don't we talk about that? Like, if you had to pick, and rather than just rank them, like we don't want to have like necessarily rank every game in every category and then come to a conclusion. But let's say, if you had to pick one character from these three games, who was the best one? I mean, for me, I'll go first. I mean, I have to give it to Manny Calavera from Grim Fandango.
I'm inclined to agree. a- Again, to me, yeah, I agree. I mean, the relationship between the Stray, the cat, and and the robot
Big 12.
was is was very interesting and well done.
Hmm.
And again, the cave, they had an opportunity that I think they failed on with.
Well, I kind of like the characters in the cave, but yeah, I mean, they're sort of, I don't know, there was a lot of backstory, but not really like, yeah, I don't know, it just didn't seem as deep. But I don't know. Either way, I give it to Manny Calvert. I mean, he was just sort of like, I don't know. I guess it's sort of he's the classic everyman kind of a thing and goes on this wild adventure that he's way in over his head. So he's just relatable. And then had awesome voice acting too, which we touched upon in the episode. Um, who I actually think he is a real actor, the guy who voiced him.
Yeah,
Um,
I was actually reading about that. I think that he's most known for his role in Ugly Betty.
yeah, that's right. He was in Ugly Betty. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, Tom, what about you?
Yeah, I think I would probably agree. I mean, Manny was a great character. To me, yeah, for me, it was kind of a little bit of a toss up between him and B12.
Mm,
I thought B12 was a good character too, especially like when you just kind of learn about who are they really are. Because it's not, I don't think it's ever clearly stated, but
yeah,
yeah. But anyway, but yeah. I mean, yeah, Manny, just everything about him was well done with the voice acting and all the lines that
yeah. Somewhat
he,
sarcastic, somewhat serious at
yeah.
times, and just to shout him out,
It's,
it's Jose Antonio Plana is the actor who voiced him. That
All
was
right,
good.
you want
All
to
right,
move to
so,
the next
yeah.
category?
So why don't we talk about the controls of the game, of these games rather? Um, Grim Fandango being originally a 1998 game had those sort of old classic tank controls, which I know a lot of people were annoyed by, even outside of this podcast.
but
But other people like it.
the
What?
remaster had more modern
Tradition,
controls.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
that's true. I played. Well, obviously we all played the remastered, but I actually played with tank controls for the original experience. So I actually don't mind tank controls. I guess because I don't know. I mean, I played Resident Evil with tank controls back in the day, so like I feel I could do this puzzler with
Yeah,
tank
and that
controls,
and that you actually in that game you actually had to like
run and
maneuver
shoot,
and be
and yeah,
nimble about things. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. So
but
Yeah,
that
the
they
don't lie.
tank controls.
You play with tank controls for the trophy, not because you
oh,
wanted the
that's true
original
too.
experience.
That was the main impetus, yeah, and I got it.
I the tank controls notwithstanding, I think the controls in Grim Fandango were a little poor.
Yeah, I mean we had touched on that.
Yeah, I
You know,
complained a lot about that. Yeah.
yeah, the like examine button versus the pickup button, and how in some instances the like you had to press the examine button to pick it up, like in a so or one of the other ones, but it
Yeah.
wasn't always intuitive, and
Yeah, and even just how they did the menu in this, like or like not the menu, but the inventory. Uh,
Mm.
having to
it
shuffle
was
through everything. You mean?
yeah, it was very kind of like slow and I don't know,
Yeah.
needlessly slow and ineffective in my opinion.
Mm.
Yeah, I agree. That's frustrating, especially in a game where you just kept trying every item you had on every,
Yeah.
environmental object.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
the cave was pretty good for what it was.
I thought it was great. Like just as I was playing, one of my notes, just general notes, was that I was very pleased that they sort of realized they're not like a platformer game, and it was just so easy to jump, and you didn't have to worry about like missing a jump and falling into spikes or something. Like that wasn't the point of the game, and that's all.
Yeah,
And
I mean, right. If you did quote unquote die, you didn't really die. You kind of just respawned like 10 feet away.
Yeah,
yeah,
the controls in that game were essentially like an old, Nintendo game where it's basically you're just moving, jumping, and interacting with one button,
Yeah,
essentially.
the cave you're talking about?
Yeah,
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 but what was the cool mechanic in that control wise was, you're the three characters obviously, and selecting them with the D-pad, who you were going to move at a particular time. You just kind of like, rather than having to like go through a menu or anything like that, you just kind of
yeah.
very
Yeah,
easily
the
select.
on the fly, on the fly switching was good.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool. They could have done some things better. Sorry, Ant, but like sometimes I was trying to move all three of them together, and that would have been nice to have that option
yeah,
to
yeah,
control.
yeah. We talked about that a little bit. That's
Yeah,
true.
and
And
I also felt like climbing ropes and stuff was a little slow.
yeah,
Like maybe depending on the character. But
yeah. I mean, and then Stray had pretty state of the art controls. I think it was pretty smooth, running and doing what you needed to do. It obviously, I mean, we should point out that Stray was it was a PS5 game. It's from 2023, 23, right? It came out, or was it 22? Well, whatever,
22, I think.
22. So,
yeah, on Xbox it came out in 23.
right. The cave was sort of like the mid 20 teens, and then Grim Fandango originally was 1998, and even the remaster was, believe 2015. With the cave being 2013. So, I mean, the age of the game has something to do with it. But regardless of that, things like menus and stuff, it could be good in an old game and bad in a new game. So, I mean, I think it's still fair to compare those. And what about like the like selecting items in Stray? You feel that was a good inventory system?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was pretty standard. I mean, if I recall, it's really just you open the menu and then you can just kind of see
Yeah,
everything there and move around, like
right.
they're in little boxes, right? So, yeah, I mean,
And you kind of do it like on screen though. It doesn't like flip to a separate screen like just I'll shout out
yeah,
old Resident Evil games again, but but
Are they part of the Brodown?
yeah,
not
well,
yet.
you'll get your chance. Um,
So
yeah,
again, I don't want to overstate the comment I made with the cave about how it was easy to jump and you didn't have to worry about falling or whatever. But again, that was one thing I noted. Was there anything in Stray that you were kind of like, oh yes, like this this was done well in terms of control and menu navigation? I don't think so, which isn't a
I,
bad thing.
there wasn't nothing spectacular. I don't think. We had kind of pointed out how like some of the quote unquote platforming was like you had to look at a certain platform and just press X and then you jump to it. I mean, I suppose that wasn't always so smooth.
Yeah, I agree. It wasn't enough to really criticize the game for, but it wasn't 100% perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't always. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like a free form, just jumping wherever you want kind of thing. So you had to kind of find that right angle to activate the jump.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yes,
mean, go ahead.
I know we're not ranking everything, but I think Grim Fandango is clearly in last.
Yeah. I mean, I think so too. If you just kind of look at the controls in a vacuum, it probably also required the least effective controls because, like Stray, you
Yes,
are doing other things other than puzzle solving, and even in the cave, you're kind of like moving. You're traversing, I think, a bigger area at certain times. So it helped for that to be smooth.
I think that's probably right, but I also think Grim Fandango is penalized the most for having poor controls, even though those two things sound contradictory, just because you were, you know,
Yeah.
you were navigating the map a ton and running back and forth a ton and trying things in your inventory,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I
I
mean,
was,
yeah. I guess I
yeah,
could go with that. I probably think that the cave for what it was, and sort of trying to equalize everything for generation it came out on and stuff. I'd probably say was probably the best, and served the like puzzler category the best.
I'd probably agree.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
All right, not much disagreement yet.
Well, there will be.
We could call it the
There
brother
will.
sitting around having tea party down.
I think after the break, there's going to be some
Yeah.
disagreements.
All right. Next, we have up like music and sound and voice act. We already spoke about the voice acting of Manny when we mentioned our probably favorite character. What Tom? What did you think of like the rest of those things,
Yeah.
like the music and the sound?
Yeah, music. So we didn't. I don't think we really touched on this during the episode, but for Stray, I'll start with that. This game actually has some like really good arrangements. I actually have started, listening to this like soundtrack. They have it up on Spotify for anyone who wants to take a listen. And I'm sure it's on other streaming services as well. But yeah, like it's a good thing to listen to when you're trying to like work. It's kind of, like kind of like a lo-fi. I mean, it's not the same style as lo-fi beats, but it's, in that same genre where it's, you can like listen to it when you're trying to have your focus time. Um, but yeah, so like, I've been having that on in the background while I work sometimes, and it's yeah, it actually like it definitely fits the environment well, which is nice. Like it has these kind of electronic sounds that, and it has like a robot vibe to it, which is cool. So yeah, yeah. So like that really fit in well. I like that a lot. I mean, we have to mention the music in Grim Fandango, but it was, it had that kind of classic like swingy
Hmm.
style, which was, that was definitely good too. I mean, I don't particularly like that kind of music, but it was well done and it sounded,
It fit right in.
yeah, it fit right in, yeah, for sure, and it sounded as it should, for people, and people who enjoy that kind of music would really dig it, I think. Um, and the cave again is just kind of like I don't know, was there even any music in it?
Yeah, it's weird to think that there might not have been like any sort of like pad or sound at all, but
I
I
did
can't
like
really remember anything. Nothing that
I did
stood out.
The
I did
theme
like
for
the
me.
sound effects.
Like the carnival music in the hillbillies
Yeah,
level
I
and
mean that's a
stuff,
lot
but
annoying. I like the sausage, like when you get this, the sausage, and it makes like that like squelchy sound when you pick it up.
all right.
But
I
clearly, the
don't
cave
really
is number
remember that,
one.
but I'm sure it happened. That 1 second sound.
And the when you're playing as the hillbilly and you're running on like the cave, like the hard surface floor, you could like kind of hear like his because he's like barefoot, so it's like
Yeah, like
that
the
like
slap of his foot.
yeah, yeah. So I
Yeah,
mean
I
I
mean there
did
was good effects like that. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
I
That's
I to me that the cave has to come in last here because
mhm.
there's no real music, and then yeah, the sounds I don't really recall any of the other sounds in the other games like poor. And even Grim Fandango, like if you want to just talk about sounds, like with those balloon animals, like even those kind of like do that sort of like I, I, I was gonna say screechy sounds, they're not really screeching, but like where you kind of rub a balloon on another balloon or like on your skin, and it kind of makes like that
Yeah, we all know that sound. Yeah.
yeah. So like it even had that, like little details like that in that game, I think were, so like, outside of just like the big swing music, um, I think stuff like that was cool. The flapping of the birds' wings and
Yeah, let me jump in on Grim Fandango. So,
yeah.
I thought the music was excellent and fit perfectly. But and also just the fact that there was like voice acting at that
Yeah.
time, I think is really great. Very impressive. But then on the negative side, and I complained about this a lot in the Fandango episode, but there were just multiple points in time where the characters were just way too loud, like the kind of background
Hmm.
characters, and it was A, annoying to listen to, and B, you couldn't hear Nanny or possibly saying relevant information. And
Yeah.
to me that was inexcusable, especially for the remaster.
Well, there was
But
there was the annoying part with Chipito repeating that
yeah,
ship's song or whatever.
yeah, and we said it, the snoring from Naranja
Yeah,
and the bees
Glottis,
demonstrate. Yeah,
Glottis
Glottis
sometimes.
snore. Yeah, Glottis a lot, and the bees demonstrating. Although you could argue they were supposed to be loud.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I mean,
overall, this is a positive for Grim Fandango, I think.
yeah, I think overall. I mean, again, with if you're comparing straight the sounds in Stray to the sounds in Grim Fandango, again, I think you have to kind of equalize, or at least have in the back of your mind the 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 20-year difference between the two games. And yes, Grim Fandango was remastered. I don't know how much they played with the sound, to be honest, but I don't know. I it's tough. I think I would give it to Grim Fandango. I mean, I obviously have a strong love for that game, but Tom, it sounds like you would probably give the edge to Stray a little bit.
Yeah, slight edge there. I mean, I think they did have a little bit of an easier time because they didn't have to really worry about voice acting because the characters were a cat and a bunch of robots who didn't speak English. So,
Right. Yeah, that's true. There was there was
but
beeps and boops and stuff, but like
that was the robot's
And
language. So,
meows.
yeah, meows were good.
yeah, they were realistic and convincing.
Yeah, they were actually done by a real cat. So,
Yeah.
Shout out to. Do we have a shout out for that voice actor?
Oh, I don't know his or her name. Pete, what would you say?
Yeah, I think Grim Fandango has the edge for me.
All right. We'll come back, take a little break. We'll talk about the graphics. But first, let's go to last week's answers to the mid-episode filler Would You Rather question. Last week, we discussed The Cave, the third of our adventure puzzler categories, and Cave director Ron Gilbert was also the co-founder of another game studio, Humongous Entertainment, which focused on educational games geared towards kids in the 90s. So we decided to ask last week, what other Ron Gilbert games have you played, specifically from Humongous Entertainment? We asked for a fairly open-ended question, but we did give some options, those being Putt Putt, Freddy Fish, Pajama Sam, Spy Fox, and we threw in Backyard Sports just for good measure. So we did a little poll on our social medias and Spotify and such, and the top vote getter was Pajama Sam. Now, I'm not familiar with that game. I didn't play that one. I'm not sure if my brothers did. They can talk when we talk about our picks. But I'll go first, and I'll just say, Putt Putt was my favorite growing up. We played a couple of the Putt Putt games, had them on our gateway computer. My vote's for Putt Putt. But thank you to those who voted. You came out strong for Pajama Sam. Tom, what do you think? What do you have on this one?
yeah, I'm kind of bummed that I never got the chance to play Pajama Sam now. I'm going to have to pick up the collection on Switch, the Humongous collection. But anyway, yeah, I have very fond memories of Putt Putt too. Putt Putt as well, not Putt Putt the sequel. I think the one that
Yes,
that was actually bundled with the gateway computer that we had as kids was, I believe it was Putt Putt Goes to the Moon. Yeah, so that was our first introduction to it. I remember that being really fun. But then
unfortunately, Putt Putt Goes to the Moon is not part of the combos that are available for like the Switch and such. I think you'd have to get the like mega combo that's only for PC in order to get that one. So that's unfortunate, but there are other Putt Putt games in those
yeah, I remember we had some other ones too, so obviously we liked it enough to seek out the other games in the series. I remember Putt Putt Joins the Parade. I think in that one you were able to change the color of Putt Putt, which was cool. His paint job. was another one.
Travels Through Time.
Travels Through Time. Yeah, it was. Yeah. So anyway, that's my long-winded way of saying that Putt Putt gets my vote as well.
All right, very good. So I have to say, I have very fond memories of playing one of these in computer class in grade school, actually. So, a lot of weeks we had to do like a Mario Teaches Typing or some math game, some educational game. Like I remember Treasure Math Storm.
A Math Blasters?
Yeah, Math Blaster, yeah. But,
Treasure Math Storm was good.
which were also fun games, but on some like glorious rare occasions, we were able to basically choose whatever game we wanted to play. And for some reason, Backyard Baseball was loaded up on the computers. So I have to go with the Backyard Sports series. And shout out to the secret weapon Pablo Sanchez. If you know, you know.
I don't know, but hopefully some of our listeners do. All right, there you have it. The answers to last week's mid-episode filler Would You Rather question. Thank you for those that participated online. You can catch us on X or Instagram at Bros Boss Battles. That's BROS Boss Battles. I should say Instagram and X, not just or X. Visit our website at brothersandbossbattles.com and keep listening to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And for this week's Would You Rather question for the mid-episode filler, as we do in these Brodown episodes, we ask our listeners, what's your ranking of these three games? We're discussing Grim Fandango, The Cave, and Stray. Let us know what you think. Drop a comment on X or Instagram, on Spotify, or wherever you listen to this podcast, or send us a message on our website, brothersandbossbattles.com. All right, back to the show. Welcome back. Why don't we talk about the graphics? Why don't one of you guys lead this off?
This is an all-important category I know Tom was dying to talk about, so I'll let him start.
Yeah, let me start. So yeah, I mean, just in general, with this grouping of games, it comes across a little more. I just think that graphics are. It's tough to compare, especially when you have games of different generations. And just my personal opinion on graphics is that I don't really think they matter too much, especially for like a puzzle game. Which is what we're talking about today.
Yeah, but imagine if you had stick figures for any of these games, they wouldn't be as enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be as immersive for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get that. Like, I don't like to judge on graphics because there are, new AAA games that are like boring, and Super Mario or Tetris, which are great classic games. So I mean, I get it, but it also seems to me to be a thing that a lot of people do judge games on, or at least partially judge games on. Not that it's a complete judge it by its cover kind of a thing, but I don't know. I think it's worth talking about.
Yeah. I mean, we can get into it. Graphics wise, I mean, I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to give the edge here to Stray again. Just a big surprise. It's the game that came out in 2022.
It's sure it's not. You mean it's not worse than the 1998 game?
It's tough to have a frame of reference, because like
Yeah,
I don't really remember what was around in 1999.
Yeah. So on that point, I don't know. Again, since we played the remastered, I don't know how improved the graphics are from the original in Grim Fandango.
Well, just a quick fact. I don't know if you noticed it, but you can flip between the old and new graphics on the remastered version.
Oh wow, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you
did you try
press
that?
if you press like the right joystick, it changes between like the old and the new, and they added like more realistic shadows and more realistic lighting and coloring of the characters. So it definitely looks better, the remastered version, but it's not going to compete with the Stray as far as looking at graphics in a vacuum.
No, but when you adjust for it being 1998,
yeah,
on a piece, CD-ROM on a PC.
Yeah. It is tough. Like,
Right.
I sort of argued with you against Tom and when he brought up this before, but now that like we have such a 20-year difference, well, more than 20-year
Yeah,
difference in games.
25.
Yeah, it's I kind of get what he's saying.
But for Stray, I think Stray accomplished what they were trying to accomplish with, I don't know if this is strict graphics, but just with the environment,
Mhm.
and the
Yeah,
mystery and
they built out a nice environment. But graphically,
Yeah,
yeah, it definitely fit what they were trying to do there.
right.
yeah,
And
exactly. So that's the relevant part of the discussion.
right,
Not
right.
not
Sure.
that not that the cat looked like a real cat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I get it.
I
Yeah,
mean,
that's true.
yeah, but I mean, to that point, I think Grim Fandango did as well.
I agree. Yeah, with it kind of looked like it had that Aztec sort of or cultural feel, Mexican cultural feel, especially in like um, the first couple of levels, and then the petrified forest looked like a petrified forest with spiders and barren trees
Yeah,
and that kind of
and
stuff.
and beavers
and
made
the
of fire.
Well, yeah,
and the cave looked like a cave.
yeah, the cave looked like a cave.
Yeah,
So
so the
they all,
cave graphics were more cartoony, and
yeah, they were
again,
more
that was by
cartoony.
design. That
Yeah,
was,
so I thought that
the
was good. All
yeah.
right, I don't
I
know.
was gonna call it a draw between all
Yeah, we'll call
three.
it a three-way draw on that one. All right, here we go. Here we go. Puzzle difficulty. This is obviously specific to this category. Um, and this can go anyway. So I'm a big fan of Grim Fandango. I thought the puzzles in there were difficult, but I did not object to the fact that in some instances you would have to just sort of brute force it and just try an item in your inventory with various environmental cues and things like that. And just for the record, I really don't feel like a lot of them are like that. I feel like if you really take the time to figure it out, you can figure things out to do it right on the first, well, not the first try, but you could figure things out. And to me, just in a category like this, especially, I think it's a great game in general. But in a puzzle category, I think it just fits the bill so well and is like a quintessential puzzler. As far as the cave is concerned, the cave, I believe, received some criticism of those puzzles being a little too easy in some instances. So while I really love that game, I do think the puzzles were solid. I mean, you kind of knew what you had to do. They varied them up for different characters, which was cool. Like we had touched in the episode that the monk was sort of you kind of learned lessons of mindfulness or patience and things like that, and the puzzles for the hillbilly, since it was sort of like a carnival setting, were based on carnival games. So all that, that was kind of cool. But I just feel like the ones in Group Fandango really made you think. And Stray, it was more puzzly in the sense of you're figuring out where to go, what items to use on certain characters. I think it's a very strong game, but as far as like the puzzles are concerned, they weren't really anything overly puzzly. I think I might have used the term puzzle light in our review of the game. So for me, the puzzle difficulty slash puzzle part of the game to me goes to Grim Fandango.
I completely disagree.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought there was too many instances of Grim Fandango where you were brute forcing it, and at least personally, there were too many times where I finally solved a puzzle and I did not. I just felt relieved. I didn't feel accomplished, And if you really want to hear a specific complaint about specific puzzles, go back in the Grim Fandango episode and hear my rant. But there's so many obtuse puzzles where not really a clear direction even. That's my opinion on Grim Fandango. It was just I really think the game not would have benefited, but required a hint system and
A what?
also a hint system.
Oh,
Um, and also
easy mode.
for those interested in math, I did some math in the Grim Fandango episode too, and just based on the probability of all
We
these
want people
puzzles.
to watch the episode. All right, sorry, listen to the
Listen to
episode.
yeah. It was a brief segment, but it was just too hard. Again, it felt like homework, and you just wanted to get it done, and you were relieved to get it done.
But not
Now,
math homework.
Yeah, exactly.
That would
Because
be
math homework
fun.
is fun. Yeah.
Man, the amount
Yeah.
of annoyed texts we got from Pete while he was playing this game since he played it the last out of the three of us. The Grim Fandango, that is. Oh
Yeah,
man.
well, I don't
All right,
know.
so what
It's
do you
like
think of the cave and
the
Stray
cave.
then?
I did not think the cave was too easy. I really thought they were on point. And some obviously some puzzles were a little easier, some were a little harder. But I thought for what the cave is, I thought that was a fun little brain teaser game that you even could have played with partner, buddy, and try to figure out the puzzles together. And I agree with your comment about how they sort of differentiated puzzles based on the characters and their different abilities. And then on Stray, like you call a puzzle light, like I don't want to classify the puzzles as easy. Like I they were weak. I don't know. I I'm just
I
they
mean,
really
Stray, we will say this. I mean, lots of games are more than one thing, but we've seen it categorized as a puzzler. We've obviously categorized Stray ourselves as a puzzler and put it in this category. So,
Yeah,
I
I
don't.
mean, I
I
have
think
bigger
it's.
problems with Stray. It's not. Some games are more than one thing. I feel like Stray is no thing.
Mm,
You know. Um. But
but
anyway, going back to the specific category of puzzler, I thought it was weak and it was a little lazy. Right, there was many instances where you had to use walk in the empty barrel roll it and use it to leverage yourself over a fence. There was multiple times where you had to stop rotating like fan or
mhm.
propellers in order to get through. Um, and then there was times where I always mention the example of getting the workers cap before I knew I needed it, and the only reason why I got it was because that was the only thing that the game allowed me to do. So it's kind of like it ruined the puzzle because I got it before I even needed it. So I just thought the puzzle aspect of the game was very weak. Not that the puzzles, it's not even, I'm not saying that they were easy, it was just very
Yeah.
weak and lazy.
Yeah, for me, the clear winner for me in this category would be the cave. I agree that I don't think those puzzles were too easy. A lot of them I think required actual thought. Yeah, and then just to echo what Pete said for Grim Fandango. Yeah, a lot of them, in my opinion, a lot of those puzzles were also very just too obscure, too obtuse. It was just it's painful to get through a lot of the
Boo,
times.
boo.
It's a tough pill to swallow.
So you guys both give it to the cave. It sounds as far as like now this is a quintessential category in this Brodown.
Yeah.
You'd give it to the cave.
Yeah. And just to finish up, like straight, yeah, I mean they certainly weren't frustrating to me. They were a bit on the easy side. So if you're like a hardcore puzzle nerd, you probably wouldn't have enjoyed those
Yeah.
in
I mean,
particular.
I kind of feel like Stray, I mean, Pete disagrees, but Stray had other things going for it, whereas the cave and Grim Fandango really are, the puzzles were the things going for it. So if you like or don't like them and are analyzing it as far as like a particular category like this, I could see,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, that kind of segues nicely into our next category.
the gameplay.
That would be the one.
Right. So what do you want to say on that?
I'll say clearly Grim Fandango is last, but do we want to discuss discuss the
But
other two?
why? Why is that last?
Because the puzzles were frustrating and not rewarding. The,
That
the controls were annoying, right? The inventory system, the accidentally going in elevators and then watching a 15-second, cutscene, and then having to go back into the elevator because that's where you want to actually be and watch that 15-second cutscene again. Camera angles shifting on you, so you're running back and forth as the camera angles keep shifting between scene like environments or whatever. So yeah, for all those reasons.
Yeah, I mean, Grim Fandango gameplay was basically
walking and
just
clicking on
well,
items.
it's just the puzzles. I mean,
Yeah.
so if you didn't like the puzzles, you're not gonna like anything else the game has to offer.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the story and the characters, but
Well, yeah, but from a gameplay perspective, I
yeah,
mean. But yeah, I agree with your with your assessment there. Now, yeah, I mean, I think like Stray is the only game that really had any kind of varied gameplay mechanics.
Yeah.
Uh, as we touched on before, the cave was intentionally trying to not be a platformer or any other kind of game. So that the cave basically boils down to the puzzles as well, which I think were good.
Yeah, there's
In contrast to Grim Fandango.
no, but the puzzles in that, like, there is more to it as far as gameplay, or at least that's how I see gameplay, because it's like you are climbing, you are doing some platforming, you're
In Grim Fandango, we're talking.
no, the cave, because
Oh, okay.
and then you're using your special moves, which are part of gameplay, which is kind of a cool thing that the cave included as far as gameplay is concerned. Each of the 7 characters have a unique skill that helps them get through otherwise locked or closed paths or do certain things. So like, I thought that was pretty cool. I even think in the cave, as far as a negative that we talked about, like the gameplay, the fact that you had to, no matter what your team was, go through 3 common levels, no matter how many times you played it and whatever character pool you took. I'd say that was probably something we'll agree on, was sort of like a strike on the gameplay of the cave. Um,
Yeah,
but
definitely. That's a good point.
yeah, but those other items I think that I mentioned, as far as like special moves, and abilities, and just the different settings for each character as far as like the gameplay was concerned, and I thought the cave should get good marks for that.
That was an excellent point that I kind of forgot about with the cave. And the cave really, the game is really short.
Yeah, and that's part of gameplay. Yeah,
Yeah, especially if you take out the redundancies of,
yeah,
you know,
those common levels.
yeah, exactly. And Stray, of course, is also very short. Maybe 5, 6, 7 hours to beat the game, not completed 100%.
Yeah, I mean,
And
you should not have taken 7 hours to complete that game, not at 100%, but
yeah, I think I
Yeah, it's
did
more like
maybe.
four or five.
Yeah.
yeah,
And honestly, to me, that they did themselves a favor by doing that. I feel like if the game was 10 hours instead of 5 hours,
Mhm.
at least me, I would have been kind of wanting it to be over.
Yeah. I mean, it depends what they would have done with that, because we talked about like the
True.
possibility of sequels and stuff with Stray, and um, they left some open-ended stuff with B12 seemingly dying at the end, and then is his consciousness still alive? So had they added that as part of the continuation of the story right there, maybe it would have been good, but it could have gotten stale quickly too. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I assume a sequel wouldn't just be basically the same game, but
yeah,
advancing the story. It would be some different mechanic or environment or
yeah.
whatever.
And we talked about it. Long and short isn't necessarily good or bad and good. It really all depends. I mean, I thought they were good lengths. I mean, I know you guys are not gonna, I think you guys think that Grim Fandango, because of the difficulty of the puzzles, was too long.
Yeah, it took me a long time
I mean,
to
I
beat that
think the
game.
stories, like the pacing of the story, I thought was good. I mean, like if you were just to like watch that as a story, and I also thought that as Stray, with Stray, because as I mentioned, like I watched a YouTube video of a complete playthrough and like was thoroughly enjoying, watching it as if it was a story. So, you
That's
know.
that's a good thing to mention in the gameplay category.
Ah.
So
Good point.
I
Good point. If you
thank
want
you.
to, I know, Pete. If you want a good story, you'll read a book.
Yeah, exactly. I'll read Winesburg, Ohio.
Trademark Brothers and Boss Battles.
Yeah, I don't know. I to me, it's the cave for this category. I also just like, and this is maybe my bias, but I like the cave in that it's segmented and you could play in short bursts, put it down for a week, pick it up and play in another short burst. Um,
Yeah, I think by having the weakest story, it allows you to do that. So
yeah,
it's
that's true.
almost like a positive, a silver lining of that otherwise what I would call a negative aspect, because it's like, yeah, I mean, it's like a sports game. You know, you could just
Yeah.
Right.
You
play
don't care
anytime.
really what's going on.
Yeah,
Yeah, but even I'll push back a little. Even in a sports game, I feel like if you don't play for a week, and I'm a big, we play MLB The Show a lot.
yeah,
If you don't play for a week, it's almost like you need to play a game to kind of
yeah.
knock
Get
off
back.
the rust. Whereas
Yeah,
the
yeah,
cave isn't really like that.
yeah. I mean, and then Stray, like we talked about, it's not a it's the game in this that isn't just a complete puzzler, and I think that adds to the gameplay. Like I thoroughly enjoyed that game, and there's the running sequences, and there's puzzling, and there's some version of platforming, and there's killing oh man, I forgot the name, the
Zerks.
Zerks, killing the Zerks, like with that light machine in a few segments. So if you like varied gameplay, I think Stray is probably a top game for that.
Yeah, I mean, I would give it the nod for this category.
To
Um,
Stray.
to Stray, yeah, just for the very gameplay and yeah, I don't know. I just felt I had not much more fun, but the most fun playing that game.
Yeah, I don't know.
What
This one's
about?
a tough one for me. Pete, do you want to give what do you think is the
Mm,
best? I got to think of my
no,
answer.
I said the cave for me.
Oh,
He
yeah.
was
I mean,
trying to use you to stall.
this is one I probably can't give to Grim Fandango. I'd probably have to go with Stray, for this as well. The very gameplay kept the puzzles interesting too, I think. So I'll give it to that.
So Tom, you said you enjoyed playing Stray the most. What about replaying these games?
Hmm.
So we'll talk about replay value.
Sure,
All
let's do
right.
it.
Yeah. See, it's tough because like the cave, like obviously you need to replay it to fully experience all the characters, specific levels.
Right. And just for
But
listeners who might not have caught the last episode or the episode about the cave, there's 7 characters. You take 3 at a time in a playthrough. So if you have to play that game at least 3 times to get every character's story. And then there's like a good ending and a bad ending. And if you want both, you really have to play through 6 times, because you play through the 3 times and you play through the other 3 times. So
Yeah.
there's that. So
I
but
so
mean,
I
let Tom
mean,
go. Let Tom go,
okay.
because I
so
interrupted, but I
like
just wanted to add context.
yeah, no, that was good. Thanks. So yeah, I mean, there's technical replay value there to
Mhm.
experience the game in its entirety, but I don't know. In my opinion, I got through it twice, to knock out 6 of the characters, and on the third time, I was like, I was done with it at that point. Like, I didn't want to play anymore. Like, I didn't care that much about the monks ending.
Yeah.
Um, uh, so like,
I disagree. I really wanted to complete everyone's story, everyone's level.
it was, I don't know, it was brutal having to like replay those common levels for a third time, though.
No, that part's very true. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's what I mean in terms of replay value. It's like, I mean, yeah, they're giving you incentive to replay the game, but you're not enjoying replaying the game.
So I think if you leave some time in between, like I had played this
Yeah,
game
that's
several
fair.
years. The cave. I mean, I had played it several years prior, and then replayed. I believe 6 of the 7 characters levels. In preparation of discussing it on when we recorded the cave episode, and I thoroughly enjoyed it again. But yeah, I mean, if you play 3 times in a row to get the 7 characters stories, you probably would need to put it down for a few years before you'd want to pick it up again. Whereas
Yeah.
I'll say, and Grim Fandango again, as much as I love it, I think that would be, you play every few years, maybe even longer than that, then you get a really good experience that I know you guys agree with. And then
Yeah, I mean, there's essentially no replay value in that game because
yeah,
I mean, you do
Exactly.
everything
yeah,
in a playthrough. There's no like side
right.
quests or like
There's no
bonus
offshoots.
content. Yeah.
Yeah, if you forget this, and the thing is, if you forget parts of the story, it's interesting. Like I had played, I don't know, it has to be at least 6 years ago. I forgot what I said in the episode. I had the dates of like my prior trophies for it, but I had forgotten a lot of it too. Like which made it good because a puzzle game that if you remember the puzzle, it's kind of boring. So I maybe had hints in replaying Grim Fandango for the podcast. A
Yeah.
couple of hints for like 1 or 2 puzzles, but I really didn't remember a lot of it. That's why I enjoyed replaying it again. And then Stray, I mean, I think I mentioned in the episode that I 100%ed it. One of them was you had to do a speed run, and then you get other. They have a lot of other like trophies, but also things within the game, learning more of the lore. Little side quests like the one that sticks out is with the gathering the musical pieces for that street musician to play. That I thought was really cool. Um, you know, my vote would go to Stray for the replay value.
Yeah, I agree with you. That would be my vote too, even though I really didn't feel any motivation to replay it or to get all the, the memories and all the different things you could collect. So I want to go back to the cave. So you mentioned that each character had a bad ending and then a
Mhm.
redemptive ending. So that's really not apparent to the player.
Yeah,
It's kind
that's
of
true.
like an Easter egg. And
Yeah,
after doing research, after playing the game, or maybe you even told me about it, that's when I discovered it.
Yeah, I learned it
But
from looking at like what the achievements were for that game because I played that one on Xbox. And then looking up how to get that achieved, like, some of the achievements about like achieving all of the, good endings and stuff. So
right.
that's the only reason why I found out about
And
it.
for the listener's benefit, you're not like choosing the gameplay is exactly the same. It's
Yeah,
basically just at the very end you return your
object of
object of
desire.
desire.
Yeah.
So and then so that's one. So you're not doing anything different in the gameplay, so that's kind of weak. And then also, as we talked about, the stories of these characters was really not done well at all. So even if the gameplay is exactly the same, the motivation then has to be to get that last ending, and because it wasn't done well, it really, you know, limits the motivation.
Yeah.
So, kind of as Tom was talking about, there's technical replay value, but like, I can't see anybody really being motivated to replay the game to get these other endings.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and
and I don't need to say anything on Grim Fandango. I agree with you guys. Kind of you play it and yeah, that's it.
Yeah, but
Basically, the
yeah.
cave and Grim Fandango. Sorry to keep going on, but the replay value comes in however long it takes you to basically forget most of the solutions to the
Yeah,
puzzles.
exactly.
yeah, that's what I was gonna
That
say
might
too. Like the fact that the gameplay is all puzzles essentially for those two games is it's not gonna be fun if you remember how to solve them.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to like take 5 years in between those games
yeah.
if you are going to replay them.
Yeah.
Maybe more, but
Like
I,
we're Stray, like I only played that last year, but like I would totally be willing to play that again,
yeah.
like now.
Yeah, I kind of had an
And
itch to play it again too.
and the fact that it's so short maybe adds to that. It's
Yeah,
very
Yeah, definitely.
approachable. Yeah.
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 I'm surprised. I thought you guys were gonna be like, I couldn't wait to put Grim Fandango down, and I'll never play it again. Well, that's probably
Well,
true
that's
though.
that's that's very true. Yeah.
That is true, yeah.
Yeah. If I forget all the, so I don't know if I'll ever forget these solutions just because like I have nightmares about them. But
Well, I'll play in 7 years and have fun for all three of us then. All right. I mean, that's the categories we had for this. Why don't we give all of our rankings overall after taking in everything we've said about each individual category, and then if we don't have a clear winner, a clear second place, clear third place, we're gonna have to argue it out. We're gonna have to bro down it even more. So, Pete, why don't you go first?
all right, I'm gonna go first. Coming in third place, surprise, surprise, Grim Fandango. That's
Boo!
that's really like 10th place, and then there's like a whole bunch of space, and then I would rank Stray second, and the cave is my clear. The cave is my clear number one, but I'm not trying to imply that there's a huge gap between the cave and Stray, if that makes any sense.
All right, Tom.
Yeah, so I'm going with last place is gonna have to go to Grim Fandango too. Let's hear the booze.
Yay!
Boo!
Um, and see now this is where things get a little dicey for me because if we're just talking strictly, what game do you like better? I say the cave comes second, Stray is number one by a large margin, actually. Um, but now if you're saying like, what do you think is the best puzzle game? I I feel like in that regard, I would have to give the nod to the cave just because it does puzzles in a much better way than Stray did.
I don't think we should knock down Stray because we, miscategorized potentially, so to speak.
Yeah. Don't say that. The listeners will revolt.
Well, no, I don't think we miscategorized it.
But it's a loose category, so I hear 100% what you're saying, but
yeah.
Let's hold that in
Yeah.
abeyance.
Well,
Let me go.
so yeah. Well, hold on. So let me finish because I guess yeah. So I guess to your point, we had this puzzle category earlier when we were talking about the different graphics, puzzles, gameplay, and in that I said the cave was the winner. So so that covered that. But now in our conclusion,
overall, yeah.
we're doing a more overall holistic thing. So Stray's number one.
All right. So I will, in my opinion, which is the correct one. I truly love all three of these games. I really do. But to me, the Cave is in third. Stray is in second, and Grim Fandango is number one. Grim Fandango to me is like a top. If I had to make a list of top, let's say 20 games, just because I haven't done this list and I don't want to say it's top 10 and then I pick 10 other games I like better. But I would say for me is a top 20 game that I've ever played. So I mean I also really love Stray. So that the gulf between those two is not wide. And I really like the Cave, but to me that's like clearly last, just quality wise. Yeah, so Grim Fandango's story is great. The music's really good. The voice acting's good. To me, the puzzles are great. Get you thinking. It's a quintessential sort of puzzler game. And once you forget the puzzles, I think the replay value is good. So, oh, all right. So we're in a bit of a pickle here because we each picked each one first. So we don't have a clear winner. I mean, just mathematically speaking, you both picked Grim Fandango last, though. So I don't think my picking it first, even though I could say I really, really picked it first, but I don't think picking it first sort of negates both of you picking it last. So I guess it doesn't win, even though it should. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts?
No, that definitely doesn't win.
Yeah,
So
we
it's
can't let that
interesting.
one.
I mean,
The
I
Cave
don't-
has a first, second, and third place finish, whereas Stray has 2 seconds and a first. So I guess Stray wins mathematically. Pete, you love the math. Why don't you tell us? I don't want to be the one to
I can't-
declare
I
not Grim
can't-
Fandango the winner.
I
So.
can't argue with that logic. Right? If Cave had so I had Cave first, you had Cave last, and Tom had Cave second, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, that was a 1, a 2, and a 3, and then Stray was
1, 2, 2.
1 and 2
1,
and
2,
2.
2.
Yeah. So.
Oh yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Clear winner. Congratulations to Stray.
Congratulations to Stray.
Well deserved.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I'm mad. I'm more mad that you guys don't appreciate the greatness of Grim Fandango.
I
Oh.
encourage the listeners who haven't played Grim Fandango, if you have access to it on Game Pass or I don't know if it was free on PlayStation, but play like through the Petrified Forest, and if like you're not ripping your hair out, maybe you're one of the weird people who like the game.
No, yeah. Let us know your thoughts, listeners. Give us your rankings of these 3 games if you've played them, or based on what we've said, or what you've researched, or seen other people play. It'd be interesting to get other people's opinion of this, especially if you've played all 3. I mean, I don't know. The Cave is somewhat, I don't know, obscure is not the best word, but it's not that well known, I feel. But either give them a shot and let us know, or if you've played them, let us know, or if you haven't played them, let us know. It'd be interesting to get people's opinions on this, or if you just want to say nice things about Grim Fandango to shut these 2 guys up, that would be nice too. All right. Anything else to add, guys?
No, I think this was a nice, orderly and respectful Brodown.
Let's try to make them all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone, for listening to our second Brodown episode. This one in the Adventure Puzzler category. Congratulations, Stray, on a well-earned win. and we'll see you all in a couple of weeks for our first game of our next category. All right, everyone, take care. Good night.